Good day, all, and welcome to part 8 of my complete Doctor Who DVD series 50th anniversary overview. It's the playlist with the really long title. Just look on my page. But anyways, now we're looking at what I personally consider to be one of the best, if not the best, individual seasons of Doctor Who. So this was Jon Pertwee's first season, the 7th for the show altogether. Also, this was the beginning of Doctor Who in color, the beginning of Doctor Who in the 70s, which many people believe is sort of the golden age of Doctor Who. So this is really where it all began. This is also where the nature of the show, or the theme of the show, changed. The Doctor, particularly, well, in this first season, definitely, was earthbound, marooned by the Time Lords. So these are all Earth-based stories, which give them a different feel from a lot of the, from most of the William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton years. Whereas here, you almost get the introduction not only the Doctor and a companion, but an ensemble cast, also featuring the Brigadier. So to start off, we have Spearhead from Space, which is one of my all-time favorite stories. And actually, I always watch this one at Christmas time for some reason. I think the main reason was the first time I actually saw this was December 22nd, 1990 on PBS. So, I don't know, it's always reminded me of Christmas, even though the story has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas. Anyways, and this DVD has had multiple releases. This is the original release. This was actually one of the first 3 Doctor Who DVDs to come out in Region 1 back in 2001. Then there was a special edition released. Later this summer, a Blu-ray version is being released, and this will probably be the only one likely that we'll see on Blu-ray, because it's the only story that can be upgraded to high definition, because due to a strike at the time, it was completely shot on film, which was the only Doctor Who story before the TV movie that was entirely shot on film. So because the film, the original film is still around, it can be upgraded, and I've seen some preview clips, and it actually looks pretty impressive. And then if 3 releases wasn't enough, I believe this is also coming out in the a set of 4 Doctor releases with current Doctors commenting on them or whatever, and Spearhead from Space is a selection from that, at least I think it is. So that would mean this one has been released 4 times, so whatever. But well, I guess if you're going to release one 4 times, this isn't a bad candidate. So just take a look at the back here. And because it was completely shot on film, this story, it has a different feel than all the others as well. It looks different, it sounds different, especially when you're looking at, indoor filming, which traditionally Doctor Who had always been done on videotape, standard definition. So yeah, you really notice that, but it's it's cool. It's kind of, in many ways, Spearhead from Space is sort of off on its own as this own separate little thing in many ways, or more ways than one. Anyways, then we go on to a great story, but probably one of the worst titles, Doctor Who and the Silurians. This is one of the only Doctor Who and the title DVDs or stories that was ever released. I believe they actually used to do that with the books, so I don't know if that's where that came from. Actually, I'm not sure if the book series... Yeah, I guess the book series was around back then. But anyway, so... And the Silurians, and I guess one thing that I should add that's different about these seasons is when it had been commissioned the year before, they were looking for longer Earthbound stories, amongst many reasons, so they could maximize, money, or put as much as they could into each individual story. So 3 of them are 7-parters. The first one is a 4-part. Some people have said they slow down a little bit because they're 7-parters, but honestly, with these 3 stories, which I think are 3 of the best in the show's history, I don't really see them getting bogged down a lot in terms of, the extra length. I'd say these are 3 stories, well, 4 stories, that I usually watch at least once a year, which there aren't a lot of Doctor Who stories that I can really say that about, so I've seen these dozens of times. But anyway, so we'll start with Doctor Who and the Silurians, which, if you're a fan of the new series, the characters were, or the Silurians were brought back during Matt Smith's tenure, so this is where they originally come from. Background right there, and this is one of the first examples of an issue that kind of plagues the Jon Pertwee DVD releases. Essentially, the story, what happened, and you've heard this in previous videos, and a lot of you know this anyway, where a lot of Doctor Who's catalog before 1997 had been, or 1977, I should say, had been junked, and the first and second Doctor stories were hit particularly badly. But with Jon Pertwee, through a lot of recovery from overseas, actually a lot of the stories were recovered from TV Ontario in Toronto, which is just about an hour and a half away from where I am. TV Ontario is actually where I first started watching Doctor Who when I was a kid. The NTSC versions were available, so they were reverse standard converted back to PAL, and yeah, there's on some of the series, on some of the DVDs, there's features about that. Actually, I believe it's the Clause of Access. The original DVD has a special feature kind of explaining that whole reverse standards thing. But because of this, because they were reverse standard converted from videotapes that were copies of the original ones, the original episodes for a lot of this, particularly the early Jon Pertwees, are missing. So really, the restoration team had to make the best of what they had. So the quality is a little variable, but you get used to it. And really, because I'm used to watching Doctor Who and off PBS horrendous copies, it's watching some of these. It's actually nostalgic. For me, watching the bad quality. So yeah, I don't really complain too much. And it's not bad quality, it's just they did the best as to what they could do. So yeah, so that's Doctor Who and the Silurians. And then we have Ambassadors of Death, which was part black and white, part color. This one took a long time coming out just because of the color issue, but it was fully colorized. And I think considering what they had to work with, it's actually turned out really well. This came out last year. This had been, I remember when they first sent out the first Doctor Who's, they actually had this online poll where you could ask for which stories you wanted to see first on DVD. And I believe this was one of my selections. I think it was, I don't know, maybe 5 or something that we could select. So yeah, so I've been waiting from this from 2001 to, well, last year, 2012, so 11 years. But this one, so another 7-parter. So there we go. So obviously unit themed again. And really, I've had a few people ask me, if they haven't really gotten into Classic Who before, where's a good sort of beginning point to get in? And, I've always told them, well, if you haven't seen anything, the new series, or starting with Tom Baker, or I've also suggested starting with this series right here, just to, obviously the effects and the filming and everything is dated because, well, we're looking at 1970, so this was a long time ago. So as long as you can get past that, the stories themselves are amazing. And then one that often makes most people's top 10 list, Doctor Who Inferno. A very dark story, parallel world, end of Earth story. You got the Brigadier's double wearing an eye patch. So very Doomsday-esque around this one, if you want to say that. And it's, I think, in terms of drama and storytelling, and even in terms of the way it was filmed, with what they had to deal with back then, which was just, very basic, limited effects. This would be, actually, I'd even recommend, watching this as your first Doctor Who altogether. It was just the end of what was, the greatest individual season, in my opinion, in the show's history. There are better episodes from other seasons, but this is the one season. And I'd even include this by saying the series, since it's come back, this still holds together as Doctor Who's strongest season. By far, Pertwee's best season. And not to say that his other ones weren't good. His first 4 were good. It wasn't so great in his 5th season, but we'll get into that in later DVD updates in my series. But anyways, so, and if I showed you the back of this one here, so. And of course, these three come chock full of extras. They're all 2-disc releases as well, so they're all what the BBC classifies as, you know, special edition releases. The version of Spearhead from Space I have is just a basic one, but there is a limited, or not a limited, but special edition version out there now. So that's it for this part. So as always, everyone, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.